How much does your faith impact what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's a big part, man. Because of where I've come from, only God could pull off what got pulled off. I mean, I'm going to give the very quick version, but I was raised in a very poor area of West Virginia, and my parents were the first generation Christians. They were a sign that you can get out of abuse and alcoholism and lots of things and completely reset your life. But we didn't have any money.
Honorable marketing built on truth.
All right, welcome to the MAHA Marketing Podcast. Today we have an absolutely amazing guest, amazing human. I'd like you guys to all meet Dr. Michael Day. He is a movement-obsessed chiropractor, exercise physiologist, and wellness warrior shaking up the healthcare scene here in Greenville, South Carolina. He's the founder of the Mountain Movement Wellness. As that founder, Dr. Day is on a mission to help people move better, feel better, and live fully without the cookie-cutter treatments and insurance red tape. Creator of the Day Method, he fuses cutting-edge chiropractic care, soft tissue therapy, rehab, and nutrition into personalized experience that actually gets results. From elite athletes to pregnant moms to weekend warriors, Dr. Day helps people reclaim control over their health with hands-on care and no BS. He is not just healing spines, he is building a healthier community, one movement at a time. Whether he's in the clinic, speaking, or dropping gold on Instagram, Dr. Day brings truth, grit, and heart to the wellness world. If you are ready to stop treating symptoms and start transforming lives, he is the doctor you want to hear from. Dr. Michael Day, so excited to have you on here.
Thanks, Paul. I am excited. That was a great intro, and I loved the full intro about sick hair. That gets me so pumped.
Yeah, man. It's a whole new world that we live in. We're super, super happy to have you on here. And so where we'd like to start off is a little bit of that origin story. You know, what led you to create Mountain Movement Wellness, by South Carolina, and a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I had a booming wellness practice in California, and I just started kind of looking around. My kids were getting older, and I realized I had some great mentors in my life. Despite the success, I was working really long hours. The success was so intoxicating at first, and then I was kind of like, I'm not home with my children, and we're living in this beach shack, living the dream, surfing every day, working on the pro surfing tour. But I just started getting this gnawing feeling that I wanted to be somewhere with a good work-life balance, a little more openness to health freedom and health choice, a different political environment. And we just started praying, and then the answer came for us because we were told that the building we were in was closing. So this gave us this great pivot point. And I knew of this area from family. I saw the mountains. I came here. I saw the waterfall. And I saw that it was right for everything I had learned in California and through my health trial. And I couldn't wait to get back, taking my kids hiking. It was close enough to the coast I could still surf. And the name Mountain Movement came out of the Bible, because the number one thing we see is we want people to, first, they come in broken. They have a vision of themselves as a broken person. They have owned their diagnosis like a judge gavel's already fallen. And they don't realize that their health is malleable. Their cells are malleable. Their nervous system can reprogram. And so we want to first infuse faith, because faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. So we want to infuse in them by teaching them the true cause of their issue and empowering them with movement, diet plan, teaching them about natural health. And you'll see the light turn on, that they get empowered to move mountains in their health and life again. And you'll see that when you walk in the office. It's the colors of the Blue Ridge Mountains at dawn. They inspire me. I grew up in West Virginia, so it was so cool to move back to the base of those mountains. But it was really about my journey and now infusing it into every patient I see. Instead of just the cookie cutter 2-minute adjustment, if we integrate functional medicine, if we bring our team in after I've done the Day Method examination and we show them, hey, I know that this person told you your spine is degenerative and now you're all filled with fear. But actually, if we just got this muscle to fire right and this muscle to release, and you went on my lifestyle plan and rebooted yourself and started to get good sleep, and let's look at your blood work, all of a sudden you see the light spark in their eyes and they just take off. you've now empowered them. We always think once they move a mountain, now they can go move mountains for 20 more people in their life, 50 more people in their life. And that's how we create a revolution, is with the client right in front of you, you know? And that's how we got here. It was a great season in California. I love California. I love the surfing, and I love all it taught me because I got to work with so many elite doctors. But I get home at 5:30. I announce lacrosse at my kids' games, and I get to volunteer in strength and conditioning at my son's lacrosse team. It's a beautiful life.
That's absolutely incredible. Yeah, you and I have a lot of similarities in our path. Because I was out in California for about 5 years, had my first kid, and was like, I think it's time to go get back to the East Coast, back to a little bit slower life.
Man.
Right there in Beverly Hills, West Hollywood area, and it's a lot getting out of California. So happy to be
it is a lot
with you.
When it's time to go get groceries, you pay for it out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's no joke.
You know, just the hustle, the bustle. Like when you keep in your bubble, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and out there, I always felt like there were so many like things that were outside of my control that were having way too much influence on my life.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to reclaim a little bit of that autonomy, which is something you can kind of only do in those, suburbs, smaller cities. Not something so I don't want to say oppressive, but kind of oppressive, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize how much of a hold it had taken on me. I actually realized it. The genesis of the whole thing was I was actually rear-ended. Someone hit me going 50 miles an hour almost. Immediate concussion. But I remember people like not stopping to help. And and I'm not just saying, and this happens everywhere, but I remember looking around as people beeped and yelled at me to get out of their way. I looked around, I was like, what am I doing here? And I kind of what was so funny was when I announced to my wife, I said, hey, they're closing the building. There's they won't tell us what is wrong, but they're shutting and kicking everybody out. We got 2 months to decide. She goes, oh, thank God we can finally move. I've been praying that God would work on you for 2 years. I want to move back east. I'm more of an East Coast girl. And so she had been so patient for 2 years because she knew what it would take to start a new practice because we already had something so good. I was speaking at large churches on health and getting to meet and work backstage with pro surfers. So she knew it would have to be a God thing for me to be ready to relaunch.
Yeah. So it's one of the things I love about working with functional medicine is the spirituality, the connection with God in some way is so apparent throughout the industry, more so than you could ever have expected in the sick care system. How much does your faith impact what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's a big part, man. Because of where I've come from, only God could pull off what got pulled off. I mean, I'm going to give the very quick version, but I was raised in a very poor area of West Virginia, and my parents were the first generation Christians. They were a sign that you can get out of abuse and alcoholism and lots of things and completely reset your life. But we didn't have any money, and so I ended up being sick a lot because here we had a wood stove to heat our home, but I'm allergic to wood smoke. So I spent most of my childhood with respiratory issues and in and out of the hospital, antibiotics, and, really no way after I got really down with chronic fatigue syndrome, didn't have the resources to pay for a chiropractor, and I just started praying. I remember reading Job and thinking, God, you got to help me. And I remember clearly hearing whoa, your whole life's about to get turned on its head. Because I had my acceptance to West Virginia Medical School. But at this time, I'm 21. I'm on 7 different medications for stomach, for muscle pain. I was taking 8 ibuprofen a day. And only God could infuse that much guts to switch professions, to even find chiropractic. My whole family culture, town culture was natural health doesn't do anything. And for me to take the risk to move to California, to switch whole career paths. And there's this West Virginia kid, he reaches out to the Pro Surf Tour main director. And over time, I wore him down enough. He let me come backstage and start to work amongst the top chiropractors in the country. And I just think only God could pull off a crazy journey like that, you know? And you see it every day when you read the research on hormetic properties of food, which is a plant's immunity gives us immunity. They fit together. So like wild blueberries ignite our cells with immunity. Their immunity gives us immunity. Or you read on neuroplasticity and how we can form new pathways. That is the hope that we have in our faith, you know? And also faith is refreshing because when you give all day, you know, and you hear a heartbreaking story of someone you felt hurt, you know, loved dearly passing away, or you hear heartbreaking stories, your faith can refresh you because as practitioners, we can also deal with burnout because we just give and give when we're so excited to rescue as many. One of my mottos is pull as many people out of the sludge as possible, but it's finding that balance. And my faith pulls me back to, I'm not doing this. Only God can heal this person and facilitate this healing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Really well put. It's the opportunities that are placed in our lives and the we'll say the courage, the bravery to jump at those opportunities when presented. I've always seen kind of in my life, I've always been the type to like jump at the opportunities, but I have some friends that are just a little miserable. And I'm like, well, have you seen opportunities? Like, yeah, but I didn't take it. I was like, why didn't you take it? And a lot of times it comes down to like fear, just living in fear. And so much of the medical system, I think, is based around fear. And it kind of all comes back to that. So
yeah,
I would love to hear your thoughts kind of on the overall medical system and how that infusion of fear in it is actually driving people to functional medicine.
Yeah, there's a major sea change. I've been waiting for this for a long time. And I think in the post-pandemic era, you're seeing people just super awake, super hungry. But even before that, you can track back the birth of the podcast, the birth of YouTube. Even, I know it's not a hip term anymore, but when CrossFit and paleo first started, you know, there's been different ways of sharing information now that you know, the famous hip hop band, I think, was once quoted saying, the revolution will not be televised. Mm-hmm. And that drives the mainstream healthcare nuts because they can't believe people are, you know, going and getting their health information elsewhere. And we see that every day. People call because they've heard about the services we offer, the myofascial, the functional medicine, the expanded blood work, the Dutch test, cold laser therapy. Through this sharing of information over this Instagram, TikTok, it really is now can't be stopped. And it's so much noticeable. And they'll try to reframe it. I remember when it was leaky gut and people said people were crazy for leaky gut, saying that the gut was leaky. And now it's in the research and accepted as intestinal permeability. So that we'll try to reframe it, you know. I think, yes, the fear-based, the reductionistic Newtonian is where we went wrong. So there's the heart, and there's a heart doctor, and there's a brain, and there's a brain doctor. But we know heart rate variability and the emotional state of the person and their lifestyle affects the brain. And so when you divide these things and people don't get to crosstalk, it's creating a broken system. And then once you get, you know, the pharmaceuticals allowed to just have free reign over ads, they get to sponsor medical schools, you know, it creates a nightmare because now they control the curriculum. And so there's been blowback. I remember Harvard saying, we want the pharmaceutical sponsors out of our medical school. And so I hope one day, because I don't think all medicine, like there are great physicians out there, but they talk to me and they say they're handcuffed now because the corporatization of the hospital system now has them having to, they don't even get to make the call for the patient. There's cookie cutter protocols and timelines they got to run on. And the insurance is battling this way, and then the pharmaceuticals are influencing this way. So it's an absolute mess. But from that chaos, people are seeking their own health answers, and they are leaving that fear state. The thing that frustrates me, if anything, on that, though, is they transfer the fear from the mainstream medicine and the approach we've taken to health, like you have this condition, you're degenerating, all these titles. We're doing that in natural medicine. We're saying, be afraid of all the toxins in the environment, which be aware, but God didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us detoxification. He gave us the integument, the skin to release toxins. He gave us our breath. He gave us the sun. He gave us the ability to sweat. And so I'm always trying to get the natural folks out of fear too, because they'll look for a ghost around every corner or close on people in their sales tactics, scaring the crap out of people as well. So I think that is something, when you read the book Mindset, this woman goes in and teaches these kids in the inner city that it's possible, that they can. And that's where the birth of the, cannot think of it, but the reading where they end up setting all these records in testing. They just had to know it was possible. So people come in and they go, I have this diagnosis and this other, but there's other chiropractors. He told me I'm degenerating down here. And I'm like, yeah, but Stuart McGill's research says that if you teach a person how to fire their core and hip hinge properly, 70% of that degenerative spine is no longer symptomatic. So, but yeah, it is, back to your question, fear is controlling a lot of what people are going through. And we're in an anxiety crisis. We're in a stress crisis. And we're all taking in too much data. But I am hopeful because of podcasts like you and thousands of others and Facebook groups and all these things. I mean, I have people come in every week just so educated. It excites me. Yeah.
It's that's one of the big, bifurcations that I feel like we have in society. Is there's people that are curious, and there are people that are, we'll say, like apathetic. Like they just assume everything that comes out of the TV is true, and they don't really do their own research. Yeah, when you're getting told at a major scale not to do your own research, like that was one of the big tipping points for me during 2020. That I was like, I now don't trust a single word that comes out of your mouth, because anybody that says like, don't look into it, like, yeah,
just don't look into it. Just come home, watch 3.5 programs, never look at the moon, never take a walk in the evening, And that is, I've been there. I mean, I laugh about, I have this funny story because changing paradigms is hard. And that's why we created this other program, the restoration program, is to slowly guide people into paradigm shifts, because it's scary to rip your whole paradigm open and all of your worldview. And so I tell this funny story about, I show up at chiropractic school and I show up and I have a candy bar in my hand and I have a Monster. And my classmates are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what? This commercial said this candy bar will cure my hunger. And it's just carbs are carbs, I'm hungry. Like, what are you talking about? And this guy's like, try this. These are some nuts and seeds, and I dip cucumber into hummus. And I'm looking at him like, are you an alien being? I mean, from where I'm from in Appalachia, that is the bougiest, fanciest thing I've ever heard. But through the process of being immersed with these people who've been raised in this health environment, they taught me you can go to farmers markets, you can search for deals, that you get truly satiated by whole foods. And so once I learned what true satiation felt like, and these nutrients started actually feeding me, I never even had the craving anymore. So in the restoration plan, we understand that to rip a paradigm and to stop watching TV and to break from those cravings as you're driving down the road, or to not check in to all the ads and believe everything, and spend some more time in just genuine face-to-face interactions. It's a journey. And so the restoration plan is taking people on that journey and hopefully cutting years off of what I had to learn over 10 years. I'm in yoga class my first time, and I'm like, in chiropractic school, like, what is going on? If my West Virginia buddies could see me now. But it healed me, that learning process And that's the hard part is people have to, like you said, people have to commit to the work, take the opportunities. And I always tell people, and this is I don't know where this comes from, but people are very physically oriented driven. So I want to lose weight. I don't like this about my body. I want to get out of pain. But I always try to flip it because that's not good enough fuel to last anyone. Those are reptilian brainstem level motivations. We got to go higher, and we got to say, I want to serve my community doing this. I want to treat patients until I'm 75. I can't wait until imagine the wisdom God's going to give me when I'm 70, coaching other natural health doctors. I want to surf with my kids on vacation and see my grandchildren come out and surf with me. Those will refute any temptation back to watching TV all the time, or those little cravings we get. Like, I still drive by certain fast food restaurants, and the West Virginia comes up, and I'm like, I sure could use a sugary soda, and you can work through that. It's a paradigm shift, and that's very hard for people because they're already busy.
Yeah. I think what I'm getting very optimistic about is that not only the access of information, but because it's truly worked to get to it. Just the fact that people are having this awareness, the fact that the information is out there, the fact that people are second guessing, even stuff where like you can't buy soda with a snap, stuff like that. Like even that just being like a headline, I feel like gets people to go like, is sugary soda like really that bad for you? I mean, yeah, it's a starting block in destroying your health. And a lot of it comes down to discipline. And I think access to information, and I mean, I could get into this a lot because it makes me think of honor cultures. So with honor cultures, shame is a very big motivator. So like honor culture would be like Scandinavian Vikings, or the mafia is like a good example of like honor cultures, when you get a made man. And I feel like the access to information, kind of as we're starting to see this stuff, I think it's starting to like make people feel a little bit of shame around our ignorance, our collective ignorance. And if you look at it, well, I didn't choose to be ignorant on this thing. Just the education system never taught me, right? It's like, it's how I feel about finances at this point. I was like, my parents didn't really tell me about finances. I didn't really take any classes about finances, but now I'm running a business for a couple of years. I'm like, I really should be much, much better at this. And, so they start doing the research, and it was a shame of mine that like got me to that. And I'm hoping that, nutrition, that people start feeling that on the nutrition side too. Cause one of the things I'm realizing though is what we have come to find over years of coaching patients through, and myself, chronic stress. Have you ever read the book Salt, Sugar, Fat, or heard of it? It's an expose on the engineering that goes behind your fast food. And the addictive nature, to the degree when they want to see the rat react the same exact way to a certain cookie or a certain chip, almost to the same degree in this maze. I think they use a rat to cocaine. So the reward centers of the portions of salt, sugar, or fat hit the reward centers in our brain from our starvation programming. And it kicks on. I tell this story in restoration. I say, you've been tracked by a tiger for 7 days and you're dying and you're being hunted. And a tree comes up on the horizon and it's a candy bar tree. And you go and eat it, and the most high octane fuel for survival hits your lips. And your brain says, never forget this candy wrapper. Don't ever forget that logo, that color means survival and reward. So they create that pattern, and they're creating true addicts, And then you throw in the chronic stress of our environment, and you have the perfect formula for people who can't, no matter they know it's bad, they actually live in a cycle of not feeling that great about themselves. But what we get them to do is find pauses. I call them hammock moments. We get them to find pauses in their day
and start to break the stress cycle, and then you break the food cycle. Because the reward centers, you can't override the reward centers, right? So like after, just like full disclosure, after my father passed when I'm 16, my family is already people who eat treats for everything because it's the culture of West Virginia. I would go and eat Long John Silver's in my car just because it would just give me a rush when I was feeling so down and tired. And I would eat it and it'd be like covered in grease. But for that 10 minutes, my life had some level of like significance. You know what I mean? And I felt like, I'm back, baby. You know? And I really feel like with chronic stress, that's what people are dealing with. They don't know how to manage how down their brains feel. And they know that those foods will lift them. You know what I mean? And so anyway, we infuse these rest periods. We teach people how to rest again through breathing, pausing, being creative. And it doesn't need to be anything extensive, just little 2-minute windows. And then they have the space, the self-awareness, in psychology, to be above your thinking and to see the craving, observe the craving, and ask yourself, is this a time for a treat? Because if I'm going to have a treat, I'm going to enjoy it. And if it's not a time for a treat, what happened today where I didn't pace myself to where this emotion of feeling of craving is coming? And that's how they work through the 12-step program. That's how they work through everything, And so we really try to empower people because I've been there and still deal with it. And because my whole life, if I was good, I got fast food. If I was sick, I got fast food. And my parents are awesome. They did what they had to do to make sure we were surviving and paying bills. And I'm so glad they propelled me to where I can go to farmers markets and things. But that's where I hope the epidemic I see right now is the constant data. Post-COVID, I'm raising 3 young boys. The data we're taking in is insane. Our brains can't handle it. And we're not living in the present moment, We all got hooked on our phones and technology massively during those times.
Yeah, I do something with my, I have a toddler, he's 3 years old. So I like to put him in the car for about 5 minutes, just by himself. While, I get my coffee together, get this together, but I let him just sit there in silence for a minute. Like, no, he's got some little toys and trinkets and stuff like that. No screen, nobody to even interact with. Sometimes there'll be some music on, just going on light in the car or something like that. But I do it intentionally, just to give him kind of an opportunity before he's like going to school and starting his day and all this, to just like have a chill moment, like calm down.
It's huge. I mean, these chill moments are so rare. Like, I think of how bored I was as a kid at times and how good that is because you sit and daydream.
Yeah, and kids they don't get that enough. How old are your kids?
I have a 15-year-old young man and a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old.
And all boys.
All boys, yeah. It is very interesting in this modern world. So much has changed. I remember a famous functional medicine doctor talking about how much his kids beleaguered him for constantly making them only eat health food. So we're always walking that fine line of social gatherings and just telling them, because we don't want to make it like a fundamentalist natural health environment in our home. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. With that being said, they are very healthy boys, very happy, very alert, and we just work with them because they do, the modern world, you have to have a phone to communicate with your peers. There's no more home phone. There's no more calling Mrs. Jones, can I speak to... And so then navigating that, having them turn the phone in, or else next thing you know, the group chat is 50 chats long for the older 2 boys, and they're just hooked. So I say there's no playbook for what's happening right now, raising kids with the advent of the smartphone and the advent of social media and the constant pressure that puts on them. None of my boys have social media accounts, but they still hear about stuff and hear stories, and a lot of their peers spend their whole life on their phone. I'll have kids at our house and so this summer I'm going to make a rule that if you're at my house for a pool gathering, you got to check your phone at the basket, because it's really embarrassing to watch them all sit side by side still on their phone. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. If you'd imagine this like with us growing up, just if somebody was showing that, you'd be like, oh, it's a dystopian future they're showing it. But that's just everyday life now,
Yeah,
right? Like
I know.
it's pretty
I know.
pretty crazy. And you and I we're about the same age. I'm in my early 40s, and I just
Yep, same.
I think I am so
Early
blessed.
mid.
Yeah, early mid, right? I feel like I'm so blessed and fortunate, and I thank God every day for the generation that I am part of, because we got the analog
Yeah.
stuff, we got, I had a Nintendo, but it was something you had to go over and actually turn on and start up. There wasn't like phone games. There wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember talking to girls in grade school and taking the phone cord and pulling it out from the kitchen and sitting in the side room so I could talk, and calling friends' house and their mom would pick up and you have to ask for your friend. There's no
That's
just text.
that's gone.
And then all the way to the point where, I was designing websites when I was in high school, and like Angel
Wow.
Fire and Geosites and like early.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this would have been
Man,
like late 90s, right? Like I was
the
building.
early website designs
Yeah.
with like the hot rod flames going across and you remember that?
Yeah,
You could do like the
Angel Fire.
little
Yeah, you could like turn
running
on
people.
the glitter mode on Angel Fire, and it would make your site
Heck
load
yeah,
with
dude.
glitter.
I
Yeah.
was like, my visit counter says 202.
Yeah, exactly. But to get
Yeah, dog.
such like a wide end of that spectrum, like we got so much of those two sides. I feel like a great deal of empathy towards kids today, and
I do
I'm
too.
trying to think of ways. I mean, my kid is outside so much. We don't really use sunscreen
Mm-hmm.
at
Us
all.
too.
We go to the lake constantly. We go on hikes constantly. But so many of the other kids that I see him have to interact with, like you can almost see from like a. And I'm not like knocking any of the kids at daycare or their parents.
No, I get it.
But like you could see when a child has developmental differences than
Mhm.
my kid. My kid loves to read, and I watch these kids like, just give me phone, give me phone. I'm like you gotta
Mhm.
you gotta put intentionality behind so much with raising kids today, and discipline. That's the one thing I think that we've just lost as a society.
Yeah, I mean, kids need to know boundaries, and I teach my boys. I probably heard it somewhere, but I kind of fashioned it off of Maslow's hierarchy of need.
Mhm.
I teach them all the time. I'm like, your highest order as a young man, future young man for my youngest, is your faith, your relationship with God, honoring your parents and the elders around you, being a part of your community. And we just keep going down the tier. Your talents and gifts, or gifts you want to improve upon about yourself, knowing your weaknesses and areas you don't feel that confident about, and having a contact with that shadow and going, okay, this is like knowing themselves, way down, like after we've played lacrosse, after we've had family time, after they've studied, on the weekends when we're all exhausted and we've been outside all day. That's the time for video games. There's got to be they have to understand, with the centralization of like gaming is just taking over, and now it's a college sport, and the phones are hyper communicating. It puts a real strain on them, But I do know it's possible. I do see it in our neighborhood that there's still this, hey, let's go ride bikes, let's go fish. We got a pond near us. When they're out playing with their lacrosse team, that's pure what God designed us for. They're just out working as a team with their buds. And that's what gives me hope. And my parents were as worried about me. I mean, the technology was higher than theirs. I heard the same lectures, so I always try to not be, but it is challenging, this text. I'm challenged as a man. All this texting, I want to talk to my friends on the phone and hear their voice inflection, It's like, how are you? Oh, good. You don't get to know anything about anybody,
Yeah.
God bless you. All right, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. That craving for interpersonal relationship, I think, is one reason why my sales strategy works so well. Because I send a custom video. Like, I'm talking to you. I'm not.
Yeah.
This is not a cold email. This is not a this. But I think finding ways to incorporate that into our professional life, eventually, I mean, more success. One of the big three things in this book that I'm reading, The Carpenter. He talks about you have to have a heart for your business, right? And he says it comes with love. You gotta love what you're doing, love the people that you're doing it with. You have to serve, and you have to care, right? Like, if you're doing those three things, you'll be a successful business owner. And it like made me feel good reading that, because I like that's truly like how I try to run my business. So just touch on that, and with the day method, and kind of how you've incorporated that love, service, and care.
Yeah. In the intro to our training manual to our team, I talk about the gift of meaningful work, where you get to put someone in front of yourself and you get to serve them with all of your gifts. Because we all have issues, and I say to the staff, like, the minute that we arrive 20 minutes prior to patients arriving, imagine getting to release all of your home stress and all of your personal story stuff and just serving people for the next 6 to 7 hours. If you do it right to the edge of your ability, I always think of like the samurai who watched a tree and studied it till they made the perfect cut on the bonsai. Like, if we offer the perfect piece of advice, if we really study the case and are the breakthrough for that person, the life changer, you're hitting that edge of your ability with a challenging case, and that's where flow state comes in, where time disappears. And that kind of work is what makes the world go round. Leisure alone doesn't fill you, So I tell them, like, when you're getting a call, you might be the last ditch effort for this person before they give up and get on multiple medications. So your inflection, your voice, your level of encouragement, you might be the only guide up the mountain. This might be it, And so we come at it with that level of seriousness. And I know it sounds intense, and I warn people, I'm a very laid back surfer, but also very intense when it comes to patient care, because we might be the only person to pull them up out of the muck, And so the day method was designed in that, like, why does the Pro Surf Tour get this level of care? And the everyday grandmother who wants to pick up their child and play pickleball get less care. Why are they getting the level of corporatized chiropractic, with quick crack, get a quick crack, or even in the functional medicine world, like, yes, it's great to do the big plans, but what if sometimes you empower them with lifestyle and don't make them feel that you're the savior of their world, that you empower them to connect with their own self, So that's where the day method is get to the root cause, give them an answer, run a thorough diagnostic. Maybe I just had a patient the other day, 7th practitioner she's seen, burning pain across the base of her skull. Through our diagnostic, it was actually a completely missed frozen shoulder. And she didn't put it on the history or anything, but as we checked the fascia and we checked the overactivation of the humerus muscles, the pec and the deltoid, you could quickly feel the tone change in her shoulder. Now, of course, her neck's never going to release. There's somewhere else that pulls up into the front of her neck. Or recent functional medicine cases where people have slipped through the cracks for a long time doing detoxes. And I love detoxes. But this person needed to reboot their stomach acid. And we ran the proper test. Because if you don't have proper stomach acid to break down nutrients, your body's starving, And so there are buzzwords that people go after in the natural health world, and we try to be that clinician that gives the person an answer with clarity without making them feel like we're the only answer to their health, that a huge part of it is themselves, and then having a team around them to fix the problem as quickly as possible.
What do you want to eventually turn Mountain Movement into? Because I love your mindset with so much of this. And one of the big goals with this podcast, with my company, with all that, is just giving people like you the platform that you deserve, and the opportunity to get. I like vision casting. I like people saying what I want to be in 5-10 years, because I don't think enough people think about it.
No, I definitely have a clear. And it's funny because I moved here with a very clear vision, and then that horrible things that happened birthed the vision even more, but it has taken some time. I've just come out of a huge valley in life. We got here. We were so excited to be close to family. My mother ended up getting brain cancer, and we got one more year with her, and then she died. And the day I got home from the hospital, or from the funeral, back to Greenville, my sons were like, we should go mountain biking. And I broke my clavicle, which disabled my work for over 7 months. And then a huge opportunity arose for my wife to go to nursing school, but we just kind of kept the practice going, and now she's a nurse who's going to work in our practice. But my vision, now that we're kind of running on all cylinders emotionally, spiritually, and physically, is to move into the teaching of young doctors who come out of school. The chiropractic drop-off rate in careers is huge because they're told that all they have to do is come out and just open a sign and do the same 5 adjustments and they're going to be successful. And that's just not the case. Because people are more savvy, you have to be the best. You have to imagine you're the best in the world, or that's your goal, and then go after that. And so with the day method and the neuro reset technique for the more massage side of things, I would love to train other practitioners and empower them. And then those who want to stay on, we could have multi-facility delivery of that next level care. We reset the muscle, we release the fascia, we still align the joint, but we only do the alignment to the level the person can handle. So multiple offices, all branded and visual, like, what's your mountain? What are we helping you overcome? And they can track their progress through digital forms. Birthing the restoration plan, where people can get online and go on that journey with us, even if they are hearing our content from far away, where they can learn how to have these rest moments, learn about easier ways to bring natural health in if budget is tight or if your schedule is tight. So the restoration plan, the book of the restoration plan is almost finished, but these days you really have to have a platform to get your book published, or just self-publish and have it as an e-copy. So it's kind of like, I wanted to get published. My wife was like, just self-publish, just get it out there, And I think she's probably right, is moving forward with getting that book published, telling this story to people. And the last goal is just, I love treating and staying in the zone and being as close to peak performance as possible and getting these people results. But what we're finding is my practice is extremely limited. So I've empowered another associate, taught him the method. Now he's completely full. We're about to add a third doctor. We've incorporated a massage therapist who does my methods and laser. He's about to be completely full. So the hunger and the need is there. It's just training the right team around you and empowering them. And in hope is you're giving them meaningful work where they get to be in the top 10% of the field, And I think the rest just happens, But I think of planting seeds in people's minds across social media, almost having like a mini media company, and that driving the training, the brick and mortar, the book. But I love media. I was so excited to come sit down with you today. I love the thought of how many people this is going to reach. And I set this vision out about a year ago of just switches being turned on. Like 3 million people's brains getting switches turned on. And, that seems like a lot of people, but in the modern day, I think we might have already reached that people through our social media. So I need to make a bigger goal.
Yeah.
But I remember me on the back porch of my mom's porch in West Virginia, just so done. Got diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. Could not hardly get out of bed. Had 20 mouth ulcers in my mouth because the prednisone they told me to go on completely collapsed my immune system. And just my whole life almost being taken from me. And so that fuels me with a passion that if I can restore, people say, you have too much energy. Sometimes, how do you have this much energy? And I'm like, I was really sick. It's time to celebrate, And I do get tired and I do get burnt out. But man, when you have been that sick and you get your life back, and there's nothing that stops you then, because you realize there's a hope for people. And if you can infuse faith tastefully, and get people to restore their hearts and let go of all the things they're carrying, their childhood trauma, things that were withheld from them, their stories they've told themselves about their story, that they are that story. And they get to be free spiritually, emotionally. Man, we would not have any issue with government overreach, because these people would be so awake. Mm-hmm. They would just make these natural choices. You know what I mean? It'd be like, and I do dream that that's possible. I mean, there's huge changes happening right now as we speak. The name of your podcast, that give me a ton of hope and give me a ton of freedom to be creative, because a lot of my colleagues have been deplatformed and silenced, that we can freely educate people without fear of repercussion, Yeah,
I think the biggest things for me, one, with Zuckerberg even coming out and saying like, I was pressured not to put things out there, and with Elon and the Twitter files coming out and being like, this is how actual propaganda works. So I think some of those wheels, as we're watching those fall off, something has to fill that void. And I'm hoping that that's going to be impactful voices that just allow you to feel comfortable in your curiosity. I love that phrase, to just be comfortable with your curiosity.
Yeah, and that's what it takes, because as a doctor, you're like, oh, God, I feel like such a dope in front of this camera. Mm-hmm. But then people like you come along and help me. That takes one more compartment out of my mind of like, how will I produce it? How will I post it? It's already given me a ton of creative freedom working with you guys, because I just want to talk about health. And then you have to go like think about microphones and sound quality. That being said, I overthink that too. My wife's always working with me. She's like, honey, your most viewed video in the last year was you talking in your truck.
Yeah. Every single time I produce something and I like put work into it, crickets. Crack up.
Because people want to see behind the scenes. They want to see your genuine, and that's what I want to see. So I don't know how it's probably a little teeny bit still of being a natural medicine doctor. You always deal with a little shadow of an inferiority complex.
I'm sure.
Where you go to church and someone says some comment. I mean, I get a comment, or my sons get a comment probably once a month about just cracking backs all day, huh? And I'm like, oh, man, this is when the love of Christ is really displayed in my life. To just keep my mouth shut.
My wife and I, we were sitting here because we've had honorable marketing for like 5 years, and I worked with tons of attorneys, made them boatloads of money, to the point where my company was like, we're stable, we're fine. I could charge attorneys lots for what we do. And about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was like, man, like I have such a journey with functional medicine. My wife is, now that she's not in high-end luxury hotels, she's become very crunchy very quickly.
Yeah.
She's always been a yoga practitioner, but now it's, she's baking bread. She's trying to
sourdough. Is she doing the sourdough thing?
We are not to sourdough level yet, but we're working.
Okay. We have a starter,
but
you can come grab some.
I mean, every meal we eat is homemade. We have a meat guy, we have an egg guy, we got a milk and cheese gal.
Yeah,
we're full in, but with all of this, like that personal, pride and the fulfillment that I get from working with functional medicine beyond working with attorneys has truly been like life changing.
Yeah,
like I love what I do even more. Like I've always been very good at marketing and attention, like getting attention. Yeah, sure. Like you just gotta know the right ways to do it. But one of the things that I found I'm trying to live more in my life is 60% is good enough.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of how I have to look at content. The other one that I love is 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome.
Yes.
So
especially from where you're from, the code you come from in the military. You know what I mean? It could drive you nuts. That perfectionistic. Yeah.
Letting go of the perfectionism is very, very difficult. But I think that authenticity is so highly valued right now, because we just know that so much of the messaging that's in the world, whether it's corporate, whether it's governmental, whether it's even coming from California, you experience this a lot too. A lot of people are very fake. California is so transactional. It's, hey, I'm Bob. This is what I do, right? This is what I do. It's like, I don't care what you do. I care about who you are.
Yeah,
Tell me something weird about you. So that kind of pulls us into our last section.
that's right.
Which is, let's get to some of the weird things about you. First, we'll start with the health side. I always like asking this question of the functional medicine doctors, which is, what is one weird wellness hack that you swear by? Putting you on the spot, and I love it. Yeah, it doesn't have to be
I have
necessarily
found
weird, but
that.
outside.
No, I got one. I still ride my longboard skateboard out in my street at 44 because I read this book. Oh, what's his name? Finding Superman. But even though it's slightly dangerous, or mountain biking, even though I hurt myself, I have found with my attention deficit, I can throw every supplement at it. But putting myself in a little bit of danger and finding that flow and that artistic carving and feeling my body angles is better than working out. I feel so free for days. So finding those things that challenge you beyond this cookie cutter working out, I tell people, go balance down a curb and look like an idiot, like a teeter-totter trapeze. Like the play state is something free. Only other one, and people think I'm trying to think of another good one. I love going out at night, and I try when I'm helping people with insomnia. I make them journal the moon and go out and study the constellations, because I started thinking about it during a camping trip. Like, we don't see the night sky anymore. We mostly stay indoors, and watching the moon cycles can put you in such a rhythm with the week, the year, the month. Learning a couple of constellations. I mean, there's so much wonder and awe from that. And so I always say to people, like, there are very simple tricks and tips that don't involve, and I'm a big supplement guy, but that don't involve a supplement. Playfulness and going out at night and staring at the sky produce such a level of wonder. I believe that wonder, that awe can permeate your cells, heal your gut, all the things, But my neighbors really think I'm a freak with my skateboarding habits. I even have a longboard skateboard with a stick that I ride in my dress clothes straight down the trail behind my office at lunch. And people are like,
that's awesome.
I wear a helmet.
Mine is hitting golf balls. I love hitting golf balls.
Me too. I'm falling in love with that.
Yeah. There's
a good flush contact, and when you can feel that lag and that whip, like when I learned to not be so rigid, man, that's addictive.
Mm-hmm. That's what brings you back.
I noticed something about golf recently. It must be me turning 44.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of surfers that are into golfing, but you are shot shaping like you hit a wave and curve on when the shoulder pops up and you curve on it with finesse. You can curve on it like a beast and real aggressive and not meet the wave, or you can be soft and Greek. And the shot shaping and the hitting off of a hill and reading the undulations is very meditative. Once you kind of see, it sounds very esoteric, but once I saw the field that was golf, that everything was, I think it happened after I heard Phil Mickelson talk. Everything to him is, in the wave of the course, which is like, whoa, I could definitely get addicted now. Because I am starting to realize 44, eventually I'm going to have to phase out the skateboarding. I don't know when, but I don't want to get hurt. Mm-hmm. Falling hurts a lot more now at 44.
That's well, you and I should definitely play sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah,
I'm not shooting your scores, but sometimes I do. 150 yards in, I'm a sniper.
All right.
The low irons I'm just getting a handle on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I watched a video recently, and it was, you're contacting down in compression, and that was a game changer. My whole life I thought I was getting up under the ball.
Yeah, everything is.
And so once I understood compression, I feel like I'm finally starting to flush.
It'll also make you want to start playing more softer golf balls, because you can massively feel the difference in a golf ball once you start hitting down on it, and you're like,
is that like the Chrome Soft, or what would you recommend?
I love the Chrome Soft.
I like that one. When I feel it, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. We can definitely get into golf talk here more, but so I'll just jump on this one last thing with golf, because it always fascinates me. Golf psychology. I think it's some of the
Big.
most relatable life lesson-y stuff. I still remember the story playing golf with my grandfather, who was very impactful in my life. But it's a very blunt story, and we used to call him Popisms. We called him Poppy. But Poppy was a World War II tanker, very direct, blunt guy. Awesome dude. But I was maybe like 12, 13 or so, and I sliced the ball into the woods, and I hit my club on the ground, and I got mad. And he goes, hey, so if you were to hit that perfect, what would you have to do? Go up and hit it again. He goes, and you hit it like shit. So now what do you have to do? I'm like, I have to go find it, hit it again. He goes, guess it really doesn't effing matter then, does it? I was like, And he's like, you remember, you're not what happens to you in this world. You're your reaction to what happens to you in this world. And it's been a...
Golf is not a game of perfect? Is that... Yeah.
Dr. Scott Parent, I believe, is... Or Dr. Bob Rotella. I love golf psychology books.
Me too.
And Bob Rotella are two of my favorite people to read.
Legend of Bagger Vance was the beginning of when I started picking myself up and when I found natural medicine. Because he's just so shell-shocked. After my father passed in a kayaking accident, I just didn't know how to get over the shell shock of the whole thing, you know? And here's Matt Damon, who has to learn to find the present moment again and say yes to life again through the golf swing. But I think there's a moment in the swing where he says you have to see the dimples and feel the breeze. And around the same time, I was reading Tuesdays with Morrie. And that's when I started learning. I mean, Christ had been talking about it for a long time. Look at the birds of the air and the lilies of the fields. But that present moment consciousness, that present moment peace, I hadn't felt for so long. And golf, you have to be there. I actually, when I was just getting back into the game, I wasn't that good. And I played the toughest course in Greenville with some guys who invited me, Chanticleer. I was so nervous. I mean, I just bought a driver for the event. All I had before was like a 1992. And my only swing thought was my innocent little 5-year-old at the time swinging in the front yard. And I played a great game. I was the first guy to birdie a hole on like hole 6 because all I was thinking about was just his peaceful self out there swinging away in our front yard instead of like, whoa, And I think that says something to life, you know? You just got to let it rip sometimes.
Yeah, no, the paralysis by analysis is real. And
big time.
Finding, so Bill Murray was just on Joe Rogan's podcast like a couple weeks
Really?
ago. I love Bill Murray. He's like...
I do too.
Absolutely incredible. But he was talking about this book that he said this book has helped his golf more than any other book that he read, but it's called Every Shot Must Have a Purpose. I haven't read it yet, but if Bill Murray's recommending it,
heck yeah.
I'm actually bringing it up right now. I'm going to put it into the Amazon cart by Pia Nilsson and Lynn Marriott. But that's what I mean about everything with golf, and the reason I love the sport. Sorry, we should do a golf podcast after this too.
That'd be fun.
But everything about the sport it's all about staying present. It's all about being in the moment. It's the one sport where it truly doesn't matter what the other guy does. You're playing against yourself, playing against nature. You're surrounded by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Truly 80% of the game is between the ears.
Big time.
And the amount of, I feel like the amount of physical repetitions that you're doing with it is training your mind as much as it's training your body. It's allowing you to really kind of figure out how to use this thing God gave us to accomplish something that cannot be perfectly done. There's no such thing as a perfect golf round.
No. There is a feel I'm starting to grab a hold of, though. I was back in the day, like way back, I could shoot the lights out in basketball. And I worked on it so repetitively, I could feel when the release wasn't right. I could feel the different fingers. And so what I'm chasing now with golf as a new sport to me is to trust my swing enough to, even when I hit a bad shot, to have some feel of what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, because I see your shirt. I was at the Pro-Am. Following my son, he was a sign carrier. They get up there, they do not do a bunch of stuff. They already have their swing in their body, brain connection, and they get up and they swing. I mean, there's a couple practice swings, but that really impressed on me because I overthink and trying to get the swing shot and make sure to keep the arms connected and turn the hip. I'm still in that stage. And I'm hoping as I get along, I can just not do that, to some degree.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know what you like to do on your personal time, but I'm very heavily involved in the military veteran community. I play on the VGA, the Veteran Golf Association tour. I try to play as much as I possibly can. And in the veteran community, there's a lot of marijuana usage for pain management, for things like that. I'm a very analytical person as it is. Like, I know kind of where I want my elbow and my hip as I'm, clearing my hips first.
Mm-hmm.
I played one round high, maybe like 5 years ago. And it was the worst round I've ever played in my life. And I have a buddy of mine saying he goes, "You're in a much better headspace now. You should try it now." And I was like, maybe one of these days I will. I'll go smoke and try and play again. But that was
I don't know.
I
had a surfer buddy. He swore it helped him. And I saw him one day and I was like, "Buddy, you just surfed the most masterfully I've ever seen you." And he swore it was the other way, Although Phil chews on the CBD gum, maybe that could help you.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what it is?
Remember he was chomping on that at the Kiowa event?
Yeah. I love Phil Mickelson. He's
the best.
Yeah, he really is awesome. The last thing that I kind of like to wrap these up with is, because so many of the people that we've been sending this to and the advertising towards it, kind of what we're looking to do is empower other functional medicine practices to really embrace this opportunity.
Yeah,
that is ahead of them. So what advice would you give to somebody that's just starting out their functional medicine practice? They're kind of trying to figure out what their unique thing is. They're trying to just get their feet wet in this. What is the advice you would give them?
Sorry, I just got my lights just turned off. Technical difficulties.
Nah, you're good.
I would say, let me think on that just 1 second. Dr. Datiz Karazi, I'm going to steal his advice a little bit. He was in Encinitas. I don't know if you ever ran into him. He said that one of the big issues in functional medicine is cognitive bias. That if you got better through detox, you will see detox need in every patient. And if you had gut issues, you will see gut issues and SIBO in every patient. And so you have to work on yourself to realize that everybody isn't you, and to be able to know enough about every system and reading the proper blood work and taking the proper history, so that cognitive bias, because I see it all the time. People like go to a person and everybody that came from that person got the SIBO blood work. You know what I mean? But people have a finite amount of resources, so design your testing around the history and the story, and maybe you don't have to do $4,000 of testing up front, because there's this real pressure right now to make it like really high tier, which there's a huge market for that. If you're famous, if you have a huge social media following, you can charge whatever. But he just said, like, enter through the most narrow gate for that person. Do expanded blood work and see what clues you get before you have to go on and do all these other exorbitant tests. I would say that the second thing is to don't bring your story into the room, because one of the big things with all practitioners is burnout, because you're trying to fix the wrongs of your life, and it can really wear you out. You'll feel yourself real drained after visits. People will clamor at you and pull at you, and you need to keep a very rooted place of like, I'm going to facilitate and help this person, but I'm not going to start a codependent relationship with this person where I am now their savior, because they're going to blow up my email for 40 emails about 3 supplements. You know what I mean? And if you want to have that level of concierge care, make sure you're getting paid for it. But just clearly demarcating the plan on paper and maybe on like a video, because so many people, they just can't, they don't live in our world. So you say like, oh, you have intestinal permeability and we have a 5-part 5R series, and you have to remember they have to go home and tell their husband this. You know what I mean? And they have to commit, or their spouse or their whoever, and say, I'm going to pay for all this. And he's like, well, what? What do you have? So making sure that it's clearly communicated. But the cognitive bias, I think, is one of the biggest things, because then you can really fix complex issues. Because I've seen 7 really tough cases this year that will take all of you. Seen 4 other functional medicine people have paperwork of tests that thick, have a very, very intimidating story with biopsies, and you have to imagine that they're from here moving forward. Don't let their other diagnoses and their other supplements, and maybe even assume and kind of take charge. Like, I know that you've been recommended these things, but if you're going to work with me, we have to start clean slate. And I would say that's a great start, because then you can just.
I was just gonna say, take a lot of courage to tell a patient that too. Is like, hey, if you want to work,
I mean, but you don't want, like, this patient. She was on stuff that she had read a blog article, and not that that's wrong, but she had gotten on such a mixed bag of supplements. We were never gonna know what thing. So I let her hey, why don't we run through the rest of that supplement? I understand, I don't want you to waste money. But I know that this version of this supplement has worked on a couple thousand patients, and then really, this is a hard one for all functional medicine practitioners, is not reacting when people object financially. Man, this is just so much money. I wish insurance covered it. And you go, well, I'm worth it. Isn't going to get you anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is my big hope and prayer for the functional medicine industry, is that at some point there's going to be some insurance company that sees the opportunity that is insuring functional medicine. I don't know how exactly it would all work, but
here, just that out. But hear them. Just hear them. You don't have to have a retort or an answer. They are just trying to express their frustration with the system, and you say, I know that the system's frustrating, and I know you work a job where you have health insurance and this isn't covering it. And then you have that background, but I also know I fix 90% of the cases that come through here, and so I promise you your investment's going to be worth it. But that's the hard part, getting started, because you got to get the cases under your belt. And it is spinning plates, because if you have gut dysfunction, metabolic issues, blood sugar, neurotransmitter, physical, they don't breathe right, they over-exercise, they're on depression medication. I mean, it's no joke. It's one of the harder professions to figure out which thing first. But that's where I get back to the samurai. What is the top 3 things that are going to change this patient's life first? So I don't overwhelm them with a 10-page report telling them all that's wrong with them, because I might demoralize them so much that they don't even start. And that's why we make most people go through our restoration plan first. Because if they can heal their circadian rhythm and learn to rest and learn to change their food and whatever part of the program speaks to them. Some people it's the moving more frequently. Some people it's the resting more often. Some people it's the awe and the innate sense of worship in their life. Some people it's the goal and vision building. And then some people it's the actual detoxification and the gut healing. But those are simple, easy things. Start a program of your own, or come find us and teach. We can figure out a way for practitioners to teach restoration. But, if you can empower that person, then the last thing we want to do is make them think supplements are pharmaceuticals, where they have to take this and they'll get an answer. They are catalysts, cellular catalysts, and tipping point makers, but they do not work like pharmaceuticals. And so we treat them as such sometimes, and we fall into the medical model and how we recommend. And how much, and diagnostics are awesome. I'm a big stool testing guy, big, heavy metal testing guy, but do you need the person to do all 7 things on the first visit, But that's just my take. Some people it's give me everything up front, but you got to build that base around yourself to have that level of, but people are just, you're dealing with running a practice during inflationary time. How can you make a lower end, accessible way for people to grow with you, but maybe they don't get constant access to you, and you draw that boundary up front, And then,
Yeah, I mean, your industry, I mean, I would say as much as mine is all about relationships, right?
it is.
And I think that's probably been one of the things that I've coached up some of the functional medicine practices, even in their marketing, is like as you're asking them like what is special about you, what is unique about you, you can tell the ones that really value the care that they're giving their patients versus the
Yes.
ones that are more interested in making money running a business. I see it very infrequently, but I've seen it a few times. But it's also might be because I have quite a filter after working with hundreds of attorneys.
Yeah.
My how in this for the people are you meter is pretty well
Yeah,
set.
and we just, there's no, it's still such a growing field. There's no centrality yet. There's multiple ways to come into the field. There's multiple trainings. There's definitely different subgroups and different cliques. I think there's value in all of them. But what happens then is the public still isn't really sure fully what functional medicine is.
Yeah, man, it's functional medicine, naturopathic medicine, osteopathic doctors, and then you could get
Yeah.
acupuncture or Reiki, or I mean, there's like it starts like very medical, runs the full gamut, but everything is still functional medicine, right? Like
I know, and it makes it challenging for young doctors trying to get in the field, because I think the hardest part is the management of a patient who really doesn't know how to even eat right yet.
hmm yeah,
You know,
nutritionists are even seen as functional medicine or alternative, which is
so you see
crazy
the
because,
really,
like, that's foundational in
yeah,
what should be all of lifestyle medicine. I like the phrase lifestyle medicine. I wish you guys used that more.
I
But
know.
because that one seems like it kind of matches.
Everything gets played out. Like, we were day wellness in California, but the Bon Secours Well Arena talked me right out of that here, using the word wellness, because it gets overused in the hospital system.
hmm
And then it gets hijacked, and yeah, I'm excited to see where functional medicine is going to go. My concern is, if I had a concern for functional medicine, is the public, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but the public are going to these self-testing companies now. I don't know how much you've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen.
And they're getting their advice online, just written reports. And so I hope we don't miss the boat in the affordability, accessibility to where they go to like online. Not, and I'm not knocking it, like Dr. Hyman has a plan now. You pay $500, and somehow I lost connection. Can you hear me?
There you go. You're back.
Back? Okay. So yeah, it's a very interesting time. What we do is we let people pick their tier, ask them their commitment, and then meet them where they're at. And then they grow with us, and it's very profitable, but also very, you see the lights come on after about the first 4 to 6 weeks, and then they trust you, and they'll grow with you to wherever degree because they see your expertise.
It's great. You're speaking to exactly how I like to operate as well. Well, I have kept you so long today.
Oh, it's all good. That was
Greatly appreciate the time that you have given us. But could you let all the listeners know where they can find you, how you like to interact with your community, and how they can
Yeah.
join your community?
You can follow me at Mountain Movement GVL. I'm also Dr. Michael Day on YouTube, Dr. Michael Day on Instagram, mountainmovementcenter.com. You're about to see a new and improved website thanks to Honorable Marketing, and all the resources for restoration plan and the day method will be there. We already have some samples of those, my approach to care and my approach to functional medicine on the YouTube channel.
That's great. That's great. Well, again, thank you so much. I truly appreciate what you are doing for our Greenville community. I can't wait to come out and see the practice one of these days.
Yeah.
I think that you are, to put it bluntly, I think you're truly doing God's work. Taking care of the health and wellness of others and doing it in such a respectful, comprehensive, and forward-thinking way. So just
thanks, man. Same for you guys. It's been a pleasure just working with the whole team so far.
Oh, that's awesome. And we will talk to you soon. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.